once again to the study of God's Word. Today I will be discussing the third segment in the area of unity. And for that, I'd like to draw your attention to the book of 1 Corinthians, the first letter the Apostle Paul wrote to the church in Corinth. Now we all know that the Apostle Paul was a giant, a spiritual giant, intellectual giant, and even a diplomatic giant, if you will. The greatest influence on this earth, second only to Jesus Christ. When he wrote this letter to the church in Corinth, he wrote because he had heard there were problems in Corinth. And as such, he wanted to respond to them. He spends chapters 1 through 6 reviewing a number of problems that were taking place that he'd heard from other people, from other sources. And then in chapter 7, he says this. He says, and now about the problems that he wrote me about. Here it is. Now for the matters you wrote about. And then he begins to talk about those problems that the church had written to Paul about. And as he discusses those problems, today I don't have an opportunity to read through each segment and to read through and discuss every problem that was discussed. However, it's worthwhile to note that every problem that was discussed, the Apostle Paul said, yes, that's a problem. Of course it's a problem. However, here is the good part of it. Then he says, here is an issue, but this. And he talks about the good part of the other side of it. He makes room. He makes room for weaknesses. And forgiveness of the weaknesses. Not allowing, but forgiveness. That people may be able to be transformed by the power of God. But I want you to take note that although for every other item that he discusses, the Apostle Paul finds forgiveness and he finds room to praise the people of Corinth, the church of Corinth. And read with me chapter 11, 1 Corinthians and verse 17. Now he changes his tune. He says, in the following directives, I have no praise for you. You understand that? Prior to this directive, he had praise for the church in Corinth. But now he's coming to something very serious. He said, in the following directives, I have no praise for you, for your meetings do more harm than good. The church was meeting, they were coming together for fellowship, praising God. I'm sure they were singing hallelujah, making all the noise, all the joyous noise that they could. I'm not sure how they were worshiping, but they were certainly coming together. We know in chapter 12 a little bit about the disorganized worship. But here he says, on this point, I have nothing good to say about you. And the first thing that he mentions in his list of problems is this. He says, verse 18, in the first place, I hear that when you come together as a church, there are divisions among you. And to some extent, he says, I believe it. That suggests that this idea of having division among the people of God was such a terrible idea that he didn't really want to believe the entire story, but he says, but to some degree I do believe it. If we read the balance of chapter 11, it talks about the communion service. From verses 24 on, these are the texts that we use for serving communion. But prior to that, the Apostle Paul says that if you have not fixed your problems with one another, if you have not resolved the divisiveness, the divisions, don't take the communion. It will be harmful to you rather than a blessing. He doesn't say that about anything else. Only about divisions. And do you know why? Because divisions are evidence of our selfishness. Our selfishness. By definition, Sin is selfishness. That's what it is. If you look at the 10 Commandments, every commandment that is there, whether it's about stealing, adultery, whether it's about killing, covetousness, all those things are selfish. You kill someone because you desire a world in which that person may not exist. You steal because of self. You covet because of self. Every commandment. The center problem of humanity in sin and defining sin is selfishness. And it is this selfishness that becomes evident in divisiveness among the people of God. And the Apostle Paul harshly suggests that in that attitude of divisiveness and selfishness, you have no business going before God. None at all. I pray for myself and for you that God give us a heart that would make every other person important to us and more important than ourselves.